indices, anything like that, everything will just work out of the box. So the next thing we want to do is obviously to ingest some data. I'll run a command here, and what this will do is pull some data, raw data that I have sitting in a blob store, into my cluster. Now we support many different types of data sources, including event hubs for scenarios like Scott mentioned, where you want to stream your data live. Now, what you'll notice here is in 17 seconds, I was able to ingest a huge amount of data that I'll now start querying. It's available to me right away. So let's switch back over here and actually start analyzing some of this data. Now, the data set that we'll be looking at today, to go back to Donovan's presentation, is the public data set around GitHub events. So every single GitHub event out there, your pull requests, your comments, your issues, all of that, we'll be looking at that. So let's run this first query. And, we're talking about big data. This is actually a pretty small data set for us. It's only 1 billion records. Goes back to 2016. So that's what we'll be looking at today. Now, how many events per day is that? I'll run the next query, and right away you'll see, the date and the number of daily events. Now, the other really cool thing about Azure Data Explorer is because the goal here is to really analyze your Data Explorer. We actually have built-in visualization, so you don't have to pull the data out into Excel to do anything like that. So I'll simply say render time track. And notice, by the way, how prevalent
that is amazing.
The queries almost write themselves once you get going. And so right away, I can see a couple of weeks worth of data here, and we see that seasonal pattern as we would expect of any website. So what are these different types of events that we're storing here? I'll run the next query, and you'll see push event and the number of events, etc. And again, these are live queries I'm running over the 1 billion records. There's no caching, there's no sampling, there's nothing like that. This is just me running and actually analyzing the full data set. So let's take a look at what type of data is contained in these events. So I'll take a look at just push event here. And you'll notice that we have your common data types, your numerals, your strings, but we also have full support for dynamic types, that JSON-like object over there. And we have full support for being able to interact with those as well. So we're incredibly flexible too as to the type of data that you can ingest and analyze. Speaking of analyzing data, let's actually do some of that. So I'll run this next query here. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at all the Microsoft repos out there. And I came up with this custom popularity metric that looks at my watch events and looks at my issue events and assigns a weight to them. And then I calculate this popularity score based off of that. Now, this is sort of like Excel where you have column A, column B, and then you calculate something in column C based off of those two. This
video is for Julie.
Became so popular, right? You can do that right in your queries, again, over 1 billion records in just a few seconds. Okay, so speaking of, TypeScript over here, which is one of our most popular repos, Ignite's a learning event. So let's analyze and see what other technologies we might want to learn during this week. So my next query here, which I'll run, looks at all the pull requests over 2017, compares them to all the pull requests in 2018, and figures out the difference of the languages that are rising most quickly. And so we can see the TypeScript, Rust, etc. are up here. So these might be ones that I want to analyze. And again, 2 years of data in 2 seconds. And by the way, if I wanted to set up a dashboard so that next time I come to Ignite and look at this, of course you can interact with all of this programmatically as well. You're not limited to just this interface. The last query I want to run here actually will look at every single word, every single letter across this 1 billion events, and look for those keywords, Azure, Vector, GDPR, blockchain, things that were prominent in technology over the last year or so. And coming back, we can see the trend since the beginning of this data set. Azure keeps growing, while GDPR over here exhibits this interesting spike. And the spike, sure enough, is right before GDPR went into effect, so of course everyone left thanks to the last second. So that's just one example of the type of analysis that you can do with Azure Data Explorer. We can't wait to see what sort of insights you come up with from your data. Come talk to us at our booth if you want to learn more. And with that, thank you. Back to you, Scott.